Saint Valentine's was a clergyman in the 3rd century in the Roman Empire, and he was prosecuted, killed for believing what he believed, and buried, in the 3rd century. It was only until about the 19th century that his body was unearthed in the what used to be the Roman Empire on the land.
Italy, Rome.
What is now?
He was found in a Roman, quote unquote, he was found in a Roman catacomb, and now his body parts are spread across the Catholic world in places so far, like Ireland, Lesbos, Rome, Madrid, France, Glasgow, Scotland for some reason. I call foul. Probably what happened was, in Italy, there was somebody who was trying to make some money. He dug up a dead body of somebody from the Roman times, or maybe he just killed somebody, I don't even know, carved into their bones, I am Saint Valentine or whatever in Latin, and then sold it for a bunch of money. Because think about, how do you prove? He was persecuted. He was persecuted during Roman times. This is nonsense.
There were 1,400 years between, his death and them unearthing his body. Almost 1,500, actually. Multiple places around the world claim that they have the original. And there's even more obscurity because in the writings that we've recovered from the Roman Empire and translated, there are actually more than one person that appears to have been the Saint Valentine, because from spanning hundreds of years, there are writings about this living dude named Saint Valentine's. So it's possible there was more than one, because it wasn't like this one guy. It was just a guy named Valentine who got sainted, right?
Also, I have a question here. Did it say on the bones Saint Valentine? Like saint? Was the word saint on there?
I found an article that says the relics located on his body were written corpus, which means, I think that's Latin for body, sancti, which is Roman for holy or saint, Valentini, like Valentine. So
that's the final straw. Think about it. Saints can only be canonized after death. That must mean whoever inscribed that on the bones must have done that after he was a saint, which had to be somewhere, probably back then later, but at the minimum 5 years after death. Now, you're telling me a persecuted minority in the Roman Empire, 1, gets a burial, 2, is in a marked grave that can be easily recovered, and 3, that somebody knows where he's buried, knows that he's a saint, and is able to inscribe that on his bones. That is too outlandish to be true. I cannot imagine that. There's no way.
I need to figure out who John Spratt is. That's the leg of this investigation, because Dublin got gifted parts of his remains. They got part of his body, and they got a vessel with some of his blood. And in 1836, it was gifted by the Pope to Father John Spratt. So the Pope gave it to somebody.
What?
Who was this? Not the U.S. representative.
Okay. First question: how is somebody from the? How do they have a vial of his blood?
It was a vessel.
What? That doesn't make any sense.
That's good point.
He was what?
Because it would have all evaporated or something. Okay, so Father John Spratt of the 1800s, he visited Rome in 1835. He somehow convinced Pope Gregory XVI to send the remains of Saint Valentine's to his own church. Saint Valentine had been buried in the cemetery, but his remains were disinterred and arrived. Okay, what is Saint Hippolytus? We're following a body here, folks.
This is going to require us to go into some Catholicism, canonization, lore. We're going to wind up reading the...
We're going to wind up flying to Rome.
Video. Yeah, we're going to go to the Vatican and knock on the Pope's door.
We're having our own Indiana Jones moment.
There's 2 skulls. No way. A silver reliquary containing a fragment of St. Valentine's skull is found in a parish church in Poland, where also in Rome they say they have the full skull. So who's the one? What? So it obviously can't all be true. I'm staring at a photo of his skull in Rome right now.
Yeah, how did they know it was his skull? Did they do DNA tests on the bones? I thought the DNA would have deteriorated by then.
No, you can do DNA tests, but not back in the 1800s or the Roman times to figure out that it's actually him. Furthermore, if you did a DNA test, if we continue this and this turns into an Indiana Jones investigation, I want to go to each of these relics, do a DNA test on every single bone. Okay. I guarantee you, none of them match.
DNA supposedly should be okay for 6 million years because it has a half-life, and you can do PCR to amplify DNA to test
Yeah.
it. But yeah, back in
They
the
didn't test these when
1800s,
they
they had
became
no
nuts.
they had no idea.
Is this the inscription they're talking about? Is it just a sticker on top of
The
it?
sticker that says
Because this,
Valentines.
no, literally, it kind of looks like it.
There was no chain of custody on this man's body.
Yeah.
It spent 1500 years underground, supposedly.
Did they say they found it in the catacombs under Rome?
Yes, the
Let me
Roman
look this up.
catacombs. There's like a certain church.
The catacombs of Rome are ancient underground burial tunnels, primarily from the 2nd to 5th century, used by early Christians, Jews, and pagans, because Roman law forbade burial within the city walls. Interesting.
They're hiding it from me. I have to pay for an account to read an article.
Interesting. So yes, the Roman catacombs are marked both historically and in modern times. Ancient burials were marked with Christian symbols, as well as inscriptions of names sometimes. I still call foul. He was executed by the Romans. Why would the Romans allow him to have a burial? That doesn't make any sense to me. People executed by the Romans, especially those crucified, were usually denied a proper burial. Boom.
Oh, here we go. I found something. It's an article from the Vatican, the Catacombs of Italy, the Catacomb of Saint Valentine. The origins of the catacomb may be traced back to the 3rd century. The catacomb, which takes its name after the alleged martyr buried within it, underwent several structural changes during the 4th century. In the 8th century, a small room was opened. It was dedicated to the cult of Saint Valentine.
What?
Dedicated to the cult of Saint Valentine.
This is literally Indiana Jones.
The walls were decorated with a pictorial representation of the crucifixion, the Virgin with the Child, along with a few figures portraying saints. So that's all this article has to say. That in both the 4th and the 8th century, there were renovations done to this catacomb, which supposedly had St. Valentine's body in it. So, like, what if they shifted the bodies around? What if this is not his body that they discovered?
If people fund us, I will go on an Indiana Jones expedition to Italy and Greece and Turkey to figure this out. We need about how much do you think a trip like that would cost? Probably about like $5,000. Give me $5,000, maybe more.
Okay, this is from the Smithsonian Magazine, by the way. Ancient sources reveal that there were several Saint Valentines who died on February 14th. 2 of them were executed during the reign of Roman Emperor Claudius Gothicus in 270 AD. How do we know this? Because an order of Belgian monks spent 3 centuries collecting evidence for the lives of saints. They were called the Bollandists after Jean Bolland, a Jesuit scholar who began publishing the massive 68 portfolio volumes of Acta Sanctorum, otherwise known as the Lives of Saints, beginning in 1643. Since then,
I have a conspiracy.
Since then, successive generations of monks continued the work until 1940.
I think if you keep going down this rabbit hole, we're going to find out that St. Valentine never existed. Not only that, but Valentine's Day was invented in about 1950 by Hallmark to start selling cards.
I think Valentine's was like a title that you gave to somebody, like Caesar, right? Caesar meant emperor.
Yeah.
Like Valentine's probably
didn't
just
exist.
was a title, or it's like the popes, they get to choose their name, and it was just all these different guys named Valentine, because that was like an Italian name, right? Like Valentino, or like Valerie comes from Valentine. Like,
yeah.
Okay, the earliest Valentinus is said to have died in Africa. Unfortunately, even the Bollandists could not find any more information about him. All that the saints left behind was a name and day of death.
He didn't exist. He's not a real person. This is a lot. This goes so much deeper. This goes right to the top, to the Pope.
These monks, they kept record, apparently, but one of the stories that they kept record of is Valentinus cured a girl of blindness, which I thought that was one of the things that like only Jesus could do, even though this guy was around 300 years after that. And then when the emperor heard about it, he ordered everybody involved to be executed, but only Saint Valentine was executed. And then the woman whose daughter got cured of blindness took the body. How do you take a beheaded body from an execution? Like, I thought that the government took care of that back in ancient Rome. She had it buried on the Via Flaminia.
Did he have his head? Okay, wait, then that's causes a completely different question. He was decapitated, so his skull must have been separated from his head at some point, unless she grabbed both the skull and the head. And
which would be even more well, it's kind of more suspicious to carry around the body than the head.
No, it's more suspicious to the like. How do you go to the Romans
Oh
and be
my
like,
God, I
or
have to.
how does the Roman legion just standing there watching her grab the dead head and like, I'm just gonna take this out back real quick.
There's a book. No, there's this 1,000-page book. I think
What?
this book apparently, according to this magazine, is an explanation of how this woman made off with his body and had it buried.
Who says? Who recorded this? Did the monks just they created fan fiction? Did she write it down? How did they learn this?
Wait, what book is this? I need to first figure out what this book is even called. This is Acta Sanctorum. This is the Lives of the Saints book.
Actus Sanctorum. So it was just, I guarantee you, it's just fan fiction written by the monks. There's no way.
I mean, probably in the similar vein as like the Bible, where it's like a bunch of stories passed down for like 1,000 years before they figured out how to write. This is Latin. We have to learn Latin.
It was by random people in Brussels. How would they know? Who's recording this stuff?
That's a good point. Wait, these monks were from Brussels. How did they learn this?
Like,
did they like
it's
get
impossible.
on the? Did they get on the ancient like Flintstones train and just catch a trip to Rome?
They called this random dead woman, this woman who's been dead for 1,000 years, up on the phone real quick, and they were just like, "Hey, can you recount to us exactly what happened before you died?"
According to this magazine, still, relics of the martyrs signified the saints continuing their invisible presence among community of pious Christians. In the 11th century Brittany, for instance, one bishop used what was purported to be St. Valentine's head to halt fires, prevent epidemics, and cure all sorts of illnesses, including demonic possession.
Oh man, now I know they're authentic. I swear on the head of this probably not real saint that I will go to Italy to figure this out. I want to know. I will do the research to figure this out because this is making me angry.
A European that was writing notes to his mate, and he called her his Valentine, and he compared her to the birds that were willing to like start mating. So it was actually in the 1400s that Valentine's Day became associated with love. We just
It's all a lie. Nobody knows. I guarantee you it's invented by Hallmark to sell cards. Valentine's Day. I will go on an Indiana Jones adventure if you guys fund it. So
I've actually never been to Italy. That would be cool.
I haven't either, but I will buy a hat. I will buy a whip.
They don't let you take those on airplanes anymore. All right, thank you everybody so much for watching. Please stay tuned, and remember, we do not want to kill ourselves. So.
Yeah, if the Catholic Church sends hitmen to me to my front door, I accept Jesus Christ to be my Lord and Savior.
All right, bye bye.
Bye bye.